Well, Dan and I just want to welcome all of you to our session. This is called Practical Steps for Creating a Structure of Belonging. And we're so glad you're joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for getting up at 5 o'clock. So we are so thrilled to share with you what we've learned about creating a structure of belonging. And the first step that we've learned is connection before content. And so we're going to start out with that, in creating a sense of belonging. It's so important for people to get to know you and for you to get to know other people. That's a major step. So that's the first one we always talk about. And the second one we always talk about is using powerful questions. And so we are going to do our check-in, our connection, using a powerful connection. And our question, I'm trying to move my PowerPoint slide and somehow I'm not doing it correctly. So I can just tell you the question, and if you, we'll try to fix that in a minute. But the question is, why was it important for you to be here in this session today? So I will start, and then we'll go to Dan, and then we'll Dan, you'll call on the next person that you see on your screen, and we'll just keep calling on people so we can just kind of move quickly through the session. So it was important for me to be here today because I really love the content that we're sharing with you. It's had a huge impact in my work life and in my personal life. And also another reason it's important for me to be here is because I just love meeting people. And so I'm excited to meet all of you. Dan, I'll pass it off to you.
Thank you, Gail. Yeah, I too, really excited to kind of share with you all what I've learned about this work over the last 16 years. And like Gail, it's been something that has transformed my approach to work, as well as, how I live my life day to day. Now, I got a long way to go, but at least it gives me a framework, and and I'm just so excited to be able and honored to be able to share it with you all this evening or this morning, wherever we are. So I'll pass it off to Heather. Heather is meeting host, but maybe you haven't met her before.
And can I just break in, because if you could say your name and your location and then answer the question, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Meeting host / Heather Keem from Burford, Ontario, Canada. And it was important for me here today, one, just so to make sure I can get the workshop opened and organized. But I actually chose this workshop to just to make sure that I'm on the right track. And to see all the faces on the call here, that I'm not alone in this work, because it can be hard and exciting, but yet also challenging, and to be inspired from everybody on the call. Do you want me to pass it off?
Please.
I'm going to go down to who I see next is Hardy.
Hello, I'm just as happy to be in the room. My name is Hardy. I live halfway between downtown Toronto and Niagara Falls, in a little town called Stony Creek, which is part of Hamilton. And, already the first line just is worth being in the room, saying connection before content, because as a faith community leader, I think we have often erred by placing content before connection. And so I think I need to put that line on my fridge. And we're actually in the work of transitioning a faith community into a community development organization to have a broader approach to the whole matter of wellness and coming at it from every angle, including faith, but also including all the other dimensions of psychological, physical, social, economic, every kind of well-being. So thank you.
Thank you. And who do you see next on your screen, Hardy?
I will pass the baton to David.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Dave Plouffe from Calgary, Canada. So a little farther away than Heather and Hardy, but good old Stony Creek, loving Stony Creek. Some good ice cream and other good foods there. For why it's important for me to be here is that I needed a time to come and learn and listen and gain some knowledge. So that's why it's important to me. I love ABCD and the practitioners and the people that work in this field. So that's why it's important for me today. And I will, Dee, you're up next on my screen.
Thanks, David. Yep, I'm Dee, and I'd like to firstly just acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that I'm on today, the Dja Dja Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. And that is also known as Bendigo in the state of Victoria in Australia. So why it was important for me to be at this session, sense of belonging is something that always calls me. It was kind of like, no matter where this one would have been in the program, I would have attended. It's something that drives me. It always has driven my work, and actually even probably first brought me to ABCD over 20 years ago. So being an adopted child, I've always had that kind of yearning for that kind of sense of belonging, and where's that place and where do my feet land on this earth. And I've been an intentional global nomad for 6 years until COVID said, hold my beer. And I've been at my daughter's since, and COVID might release me again one day. But yeah, I'm always searching for that sense of belonging, and also in my work as an ABCD practitioner, supporting people to discover theirs as well. So yeah, thank you. And Gail, you're actually the next person next to me.
Thank you, Dee. And since I already went, I am going to pass it off to Ashley. Maybe she's not available.
She had to pop out.
Okay, so we'll go on then to Lisa.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I am in Nairobi, Kenya, yet another continent. It is after 10 p.m. and I'm a bit tired, but I was really eager, just like Dee. I was really eager to participate in the session. And I think there are many things. It's connection, it is sense of belonging, very strong appeal to me as well. But then also the combination with the term structure. I'm always looking for the structuring elements that we can use. And I'm interested to see how you're exploring that inherent tension between belonging and structure. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will go next to Mariam, sorry.
It's okay. It's Mariam. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm in the UK in Sheffield right now. And I just found out about this conference and it all looked so good. So I'm trying to just really greedily get as much as I can at the last minute, really. I was looking at some of this author's book, Peter Block's, actually, coincidentally, just a couple of days ago. And he seemed really interesting. I don't have any of his books. I was looking for some good reads to do. And his name came up again. So I think, something's trying to tell me that I should read him or find out about him. And I work in an organization that works with communities. I work as a grassroots manager there. So all of these themes that everybody has mentioned are really interesting and relevant for my work.
Great.
And that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Now people have moved around on my screen. I don't think, Tim, you have gone yet. Is that right?
Yeah, just making sure you can hear me because I've kind of got a not great internet connection, but
It's good.
so my name's great. I'm Tim from Calgary, Alberta, Canada as well. And excited I've tried to make a number of other sessions, but work schedule didn't allow that this week. So this is one that did work out. So I'm pretty happy that at least I was able to attend one. And so we're about 3 years into a creation of a rural mental health network here. And connection is obviously a big part of that. And so I think we're always looking for ways to deepen that connection, learn what others are doing, and just personally too, just really resonate with the whole ABCD way of things, like way of doing things, which we've really tried to integrate within the network itself. So yeah, it's wonderful to be here today.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Carrie.
Hi there. I'm the Mel officer for Cody International Institute, and we work with a lot of different communities around the world, helping them with their projects, but also on projects through Global Affairs Canada, et cetera, and as well with Indigenous peoples. And so when I saw this session, I was thinking, you know, I like the wording of it, just wait a second, to create a shift in how people come together in public dialogue. And so for me, that was, you know, a lot of people that we work with, or that I work with personally, aren't familiar with ABCD, but come in spirit. And it doesn't always work that way, you know. They come in good spirit because they want to make change, but at the same time, it's hard to bring people together with the same mindset or to have the same mindset on this. And so I saw this and I thought, well, maybe this is something that I can use in my job.
Fantastic. Thank you. Kim? Hi, would you like to
Hi,
go next?
everyone. Hi, I'm Kim Hopes. I am a staff member of the ABCD Institute, and I am here in Chicago. And I have been trying to get on as many of these as I can because they've been fascinating. And I'm a big fan of Peter Block, and I just thought this one sounded so interesting. And I had a break in my workday, so I'm really excited to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Next, I think, is Ashley. Are you able to?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So I was a social worker before, and then I became a mom. And so my daughter has a disability. And so we met John McKnight and Peter Block with my daughter when she was like a year and a half. And we started to just recognize that we needed to kind of carve out a different path than what the natural paths that exist for a person with disabilities are. And so we've been working with Starfire, which is out of Cincinnati. And so we lead other families in creating projects to build their communities so that they have a place of belonging, you know, not within a service system, but I mean, we always need services, but also in their backyard.
Thank you very much. Joanne, I don't think you've gone, have you? Okay.
Morena and kia ora koutou. My name's Joanne. I'm coming from Tamaki Makaurau in Aotearoa, New Zealand. The practical reason I'm at this session is because it's 7 o'clock and I could get up for it. I don't do 5 o'clock. But I'm always interested to learn. I've been to a lot of sessions on this conference, maybe 20, maybe more than 20. I don't go overnight like Dee, but for every part of the day, I do it. And luckily, I have a flexible job, so I can do that. I work for a very small community-led development organisation called SPICE, the Sandringham Project in Community Empowerment. Sandringham is a reasonably affluent suburb of Auckland, so very urban. And the biggest challenge for me is creating engagement with community because everyone's busy and, you know, it's not like I've been handed a group who have this issue or that issue to work with. It's just like whoever's, you know, just residents in a neighbourhood. And I do think that creating a sense of belonging is essential to people coming together and having harmonious relationships. And one of the things I found very distressing in the last few years is the intensity and determination of the media and political parties to drive people apart and to drive a wedge between people and to polarize issues and to sensationalize issues. And I'm just very over that. So I think it's really important that we take the opposite path and we seek to find common ground and bring people together instead of seeking to find difference and dissent, because, you know, you find what you look for, right? I'm excited to
Yes,
be
we
here.
do. Thank you. And Karina, would you like to say hello and tell us why it was important for you to be here?
Oh, morena, Atamaria. I'm coming from Aotearoa, New Zealand too. I'm in the capital city of Aotearoa. And I guess in the title it says practical steps, and I've been a practitioner for 22 years. So whenever I see the word practical, I'm drawn to it. So as a ComDev community development practitioner, I've walked in two worlds. A dual world approach is what I come and deliver with the customers that I work with. I'm always looking and on the hunt for practical steps that I can put in my kitty of knowledge, my bag, and take with me, because I'm never too old to learn new stuff. So I'm here basically to soak up and to hopefully get some really good nuggets out, which I'm sure I will on the topic. Kia ora.
Thank you so much. And I think that we've gotten everybody. Is there anybody that I missed? Okay, well, thank you so much. And as we started out, you know, we wanted to do this connection before content. We do this at all of our events and meetings. If you have a large group, you can still do it, and you can just break people into smaller groups and connect with a small group of people. So don't pass this part up, even if you have a large group. Even if it's in an auditorium, people can turn their chairs or turn around and talk to two other people and get to know them. So this connection before content is really an important piece. So next, Dan is going to share with you a little bit about the 6 conversations.
Yeah, great, Gail. Thank you. So we want to give you guys this morning, tonight, an experience of the 6 conversations in this amazing set of conversations that Peter Block has developed. And so we're going to focus on that today. And you know, there's a whole lot to Peter Block's work. You know, the whole flawless consulting and leadership and management and that whole body of work. Flawless consulting is another. But these same principles run through all of his work, all of it. So you'll get a sense of all of his work from looking at these simple, what Peter calls speech acts. And so we're going to show you how they work here. So the first one is invitation versus mandate. And so when we think about, you know, the world of work, and we think about mandate, meetings, right? So meetings are mandated, or policies are set, or, you know, the role of leadership is to get people in alignment. So that has a narrative to it, you know, mandate, policy, and alignment, but so does invitation. And so when Gail talked about asking good questions, then that gets into the realm of inviting somebody to a conversation or to a meeting. And an invitation can be declined, so you can say no. So that's the difference in an invitation and a mandate. So it's operating from a standpoint of invitation. as a first step in building community and belonging. The second speech act is the one of possibility over problem solving. So again, thinking about the narrative that goes with problem solving, for example, it's a narrative of the past. It's what the data tells us. It's opinions, it's complaining, that's always the narrative around a problem. It doesn't deny that there's a problem, but it's just that the narrative consumes energy in people. Whereas a possibility narrative enlivens us humans. And so that's a different way of talking about, whatever it is you come together. So we always say, when you come together, postpone problem solving and have conversations about possibilities. And so again, what Gail and I know and what Peter developed is a set of questions that help us move people into possibility conversations. And we'll give you an example of that in a little bit. So the next one is ownership. And ownership replaces blame, explanation, denial. Those are all things that enable people to not take ownership for what is. When what exists in the world, if it's in an organization, it's in a classroom, it's in a choir, it doesn't matter. It's all of our creation. Yet the dominant narrative has us, figure out who's at fault and solve the problem, so it's blame others. So we want to create narratives around ownership. And ownership is the beginning of accountability and commitment, which is what we're after in our work. And then there's a dissent conversation. That one replaces lip service, and we'll give you an experience of a dissent conversation, but there's certain questions that enable us. Like one example sometimes is halfway through a meeting, I'll say to people, a good question, it's a good time to stop and ask the question, what doubts or reservations do you have about how this meeting is going? So for somebody that's trying to create a culture of belonging, you want to make sure that choice is always on the table. And so that's a very good way, around content and around what's really going on, to give people an opportunity, to express doubts about how things are going. And so we want to be intentional about that as leaders. And so these 6 conversations and the way we're going to talk about structuring conversations lends itself to leaders being able to create those conditions. The next one is commitment, replaces barter. So again, the dominant narrative would have us believe, in a parent-child or a boss-subordinate relationship that, I'll commit to do a good job if I get a good evaluation. So it's always a barter and exchange. And so this work is changing that contract, changing that relationship to a commitment, to a conversation of commitment. One where, the question is, what are you willing to commit to without expectation of return? What are you willing to do when nobody's looking? And having those conversations, they have power. And then the last one is gifts. And I don't have to say that to this community because, it's all about people's assets and gifts. But yet the dominant narrative, the public narrative has us focus on what's wrong, what's missing, what those people need to do differently. If they changed, how things would be different. So it's always, what's wrong with others. And our role is to shift that conversation to one of gifts and seeing people as individuals with gifts and possibilities. So that's kind of the structure, and there's a whole set of questions that go with them. And Gail and I will, like I said, we'll give you the experience of getting into a conversation. So in a minute, we're going to break you into groups. And Gail, we're a little off here, but I guess I can go ahead and explain that. Or what do you think, looking at it?
Yeah, that's fine. Dan, we were going to share our stories. Do you want to do that afterwards? Maybe we do that at the end.
Yeah, I think so. Let's do it at the end.
Yeah, I think so too. So let's see. Okay, here you go.
All right, so can we, is that the one slide about the room and all that?
Oh, sure. Mhm.
Before or after this, was it? Yeah. So again, think of yourself when you're trying to create a structure of belonging, you know, as a convener, and you're bringing people together around any topic, but you also want to create that culture of belonging at the same time. So the first step is to kind of, we say, care for the room. It's the architecture of the room that makes a difference. Even though right now we're in a virtual room, and for a large part of this time, we've been one to many. You know, I'm talking now. Prior to this, each one of you were talking, and we want to create a room and an architecture where we can get people to talk to each other. So we can do that with this. I'm going to do that in a minute. But when you're together in a physical space, that means pushing away the tables and circling up the chairs and shifting the social architecture immediately through how you occupy the space. So first step is to care for the room. The second one is to focus on the present. And, you know, we do that by what we did at the beginning, by checking in, and kind of really what you did at the beginning of this is you completed the invitation to show up here by stating why it was important to you. And that's the reason we asked you that question, because the invitation is crafted in a way that you're compelled to come, and then to complete, and then we welcome you, and then you complete that by enabling people to say why it was important for them to be here. And then lastly, is to have conversations that matter. And it's what I just talked about. You know, the idea of postponing problem solving, even though you're coming together around an issue, and have conversations about possibilities, because it's a different energy. It brings a different energy to the room. So having the right conversations with the right questions matter. Thanks, Gail. All right, so here's the setup. We're going to break you into groups of 3. I think we can do that, Gail, and in groups of 3 with the number that we have here. And it'll be random. Hopefully you don't end up with somebody you know. But when we're together, we want to ask people to break into groups of 3 with people they know the least. So why do we do that? Again, we're trying to create a structure of belonging. So people who know you, they like you the way that you are, you know, and we found that when people connect with strangers, they have an opportunity to be themselves. And that's part of our work as leaders and conveners, is we want people to be themselves. And so that whole peer pressure thing, we kind of eliminate that. So don't let husbands and wives stay together in affinity groups. We want them in diverse groups. And 3s it's a good number. You know, it's kind of, Peter always says, it's like a 3-legged stool. Sometimes pairs can be high risk because you put people in pairs. Sometimes the person there, they might be one of you that really, really tired, you know, and just not on it right now. So it kind of dampens the experience a little bit. Whereas 3, you know, kind of keeps that balance there. So use 3s. That's a magical number. Listeners are witnesses to the speaker's story. So again, we not only want people to be themselves, but we want people to see themselves. And they see themselves through your listening. And so we always say, replace judgment, your voice of judgment, and advice giving, replace that with curiosity, no advice giving. And then lastly, in your group, when you respond to the question that we give you, 2 questions that really all you have to ask. And one is, tell me more. And then again, listen, be curious. And then if you want to, ask them, why does that mean so much to you? Why does that matter to you? And then listen. Okay, and so in your group of 3, we'll give you a question. We'll kind of set it up for you. And everybody can have an opportunity to respond to the question. We'll give you ample time. Remember those protocols. Replace advice giving with curiosity. Listen to understand. Tell me more. Why was that important to you? And so we'll give you time to respond to a question. So the first conversation we're going to have is a possibility conversation. And remember, a possibility conversation replaces a problem narrative. And the reason for the possibility conversation is that it enlivens us. It creates a future possibility that we can live into, particularly when you name it. When you name it in the presence of strangers, it gains power. So that's the idea. So the question for you is, and the questions are designed to be vague. They're designed to evoke a little anxiety. I think you might have seen that question there. There's no easy answer to the question. They're designed to make you think. And they're designed to build connection. So with that, Gail, we're going to break people into groups of 3. Your question is, what's the crossroads you face at this point in your life? What is the crossroads you face at this point in your life?
It didn't sound like there might be 2 people that know each other well, but if you do know, if you get in a room with somebody that you know really well, if you want to come back to the main room, I can change rooms for you. But otherwise, you can just stay in your room. So I am going to.
We'll break you out. We'll give you 12 minutes, 12, 15 minutes maybe to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Then we'll bring you back and we'll reflect a little bit.
Perfect. Okay. Have a good conversation. Let's see. Dan, I couldn't take you out, so if you want to stay in, you can leave if you want to.
I'll just wait. Yeah.
Okay, great. Mhm. Oh, Heather.
Yeah, I think we counted you.
But it's because I'm host. It won't let me go into a room.
Oh, it
Oh
won't?
my gosh. Well,
But
we can
you know
have a
what?
conversation.
I can put myself into a room. So where am I going?
Ah, okay.
There's a pair. There should be a pair somewhere.
How about room 2?
Is there? No, there's. Oh, that's where I am supposed to be. Yeah, but I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
How about
David's
go to
supposed to. David's supposed to be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
room 1. Room 1 has 4.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay as long as there's no 2.
Like I can join room 3 and give a 4 there. Do I know anybody? Oh, I know.
It would be better if you
don't-
went to room 2.
You don't. Well, I was
yeah,
gonna
'cause
say, you
David's-
don't have to.
David's not there.
Oh, he's
Okay.
not there yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
he's
join
not
room.
there
I'm gonna join room 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Enjoy. We'll bring you back.
Oh.
Hello.
And I couldn't found the road, crossroads, like I just couldn't think of anything in my life that was as major as what crossroads means to me.
Interesting. Yeah, we love to, Joanne, we love to say yes, and that too will change. Some people say, I'm not at a crossroads at this point in my life. And that's the response. Okay, and that too will change. Who else?
We were kind of almost the opposite of saying that, isn't that just life? Everything's a crossroad. Yeah, and it was a really interesting conversation. I really thoroughly enjoyed that with Tim and Ashley. And one of the things that struck me was it was actually just before we left, and it was only a quick comment when the countdown was on to come back to the room, and it was about, you know, the glass half full. So looking at Crossroads as a possibility, and kind of said that, I can't remember, I think it might have been Ashley, she said, yeah, well, if you're in this work and you're not thinking of, you know, the glass half full, maybe you're in the wrong room. So, and that kind of ability to be able to view it in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Great, thanks, Dee. Okay, so I'll move us on. We always say in this work, and our work with Peter around this conversations is always end in gifts. So whether it's the end of the meeting, the end of a conversation, always end in gifts. So that's what we're going to do now in the same group that you were in. We're going to push you back out into that group. But this time we want you to pick somebody in the group and tell them about a gift that you got from them. Might have been something they said that really meant something to you, or it might have been a strength or something that you saw in them. But tell them specifically about that gift that you got from them. Now, when somebody tells you about a gift they got from you, don't deflect it. So this whole thing is a practice, right? So when somebody tells you about a gift, tell them, thanks, I like hearing that. Okay, don't deflect it. Don't say, I got lucky, you brought it out of me, you know, just say, thanks, I like hearing that. And if you really get brave, say, thanks, I like hearing that. Tell me more. And then the key to that is to listen after you make that request. Okay, so we're gonna break you out for 8 or 9 minutes and just let you have a conversation about gifts. And remember the protocols again. I'm just gonna go over quickly. No advice giving, right? Be curious. 2 questions, tell me more. Why is that important to you? If you have to have any dialogue. But this whole point is listening.
Dan, Kim is going to have to leave. I don't know if she's left yet. Oh, Kim, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, so sorry. I have to run to a meeting, but I'm sorry to miss the rest of this, but thank you.
We're glad to have you here.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay,
thanks for coming. Oh, we should have got usually when somebody leaves the community, you know, it kind of leaves a hole in the community. So if you're sitting in a circle, somebody has to leave early, like Kim, and she let us know that. Oftentimes, you know, we let her get away without that expression of gifts. So that I just hate I missed her and let her get out of there. So one way is, you know, for her to talk about a gift she got, or for somebody here among you to speak of a gift that you got from her. So that's whenever somebody leaves the community.
Okay, so we will open the same rooms again. And you said 7 minutes, is that right?
Yeah, eight minutes, 9 minutes.
Okay. All right, we're going to open the rooms again. We'll see you in a few minutes. Oh, we need to put no, I guess maybe we can just talk with Kate. We can continue our conversation with Kate.
Yeah, I just feel that this exercise, it can turn any conversation into a positive conversation if we leave it at this note of gift giving. So pretty much, I think it leaves a really yeah, it puts it forces you to see things in a positive way, and to acknowledge that most conversations and most people you meet, if you think about it, if you take the time to think about it, you will get something positive out of it.
Thank you, Miriam. Lisa.
I had two thoughts. The first one is, so sometimes we speak about our ABCD practice, and one of the things I often say to people why I find it so powerful or why I like it so much is because I sometimes tell people, I think that very often we interact with other people, even over years, based on the 5 or 10% that we know about this person. And we completely undershare and we underconnect because we don't know each other well enough. So finding ways of having conversations about stuff that matters brings people closer together, and people are closer together can achieve more together. So I love the fact that just having the right kind of conversation starter can make such a difference. That's one thing that I found very interesting. And I lost my second thing and I really liked it. It's gone. If I remember it, I'll get back.
Thanks, Lisa. That was beautiful.
Actually, I actually do remember. Yeah, one of the things that I also found striking about our conversation just now with Heather is the fact that, of course, we all have some kind of idea about ourselves, right? And we have an idea about the things that might be interesting for other people or might not. But the truth is, we know so little about how we do or say falls with another person, because we don't know in which state they are, and we don't know where they connect. So just being open to the idea that people will connect to something. So just be who you are, because people will tease out those things that resonate with them. I think I like the idea, because what Heather told me, what she found inspiring was something about what I had said I would never have imagined. And I just love this idea, this thing of if you're being genuinely you, someone can be genuinely inspired even if you have no idea.
Yeah.
And I like that.
That's beautiful, Lisa. Thank you so much.
I appreciate, was somebody else going to still talk? Okay. Dan, we had built in a little bit of a break. Do you guys need a break, or do you want to keep, we had an idea of having a second conversation. Do you want a break? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? No? Okay. Nope. Nobody needs a break? Okay. Okay. So then I think we can keep going, Dan, to our second conversation. What do you think?
Sure, let's do that.
Okay.
Could you bring up the, those. So we've had a possibility conversation where we've kind of looked at this little structure of questions that Peter created, and we have a link to some materials for you, and a book is one of Peter's most recent books. It's not his most recent, but Community Structure Belonging, and it contains all this information in that book. There's another booklet that we can give you a link to that's a free download that also, gets into these different 6 conversations. So like we said, we wanted you to kind of experience the conversations and how we as conveners can invert what it is we talk about. And we can invert that public narrative that keeps us stuck in patterns of the past. And so we do that through creating a structure of belonging over a structure of othering. The dominant narrative needs othering to make its point. And so we're trying to create the opposite of that. And so that's what these different conversations do. And like I said, there's a list of questions that'll help you with that. And so the next conversation we thought about doing, and break you into another group of 3, give you another opportunity to experience another one. And it is a dissent conversation. So, we say dissent and refusal replaces resignation and lip service. And I know from being a manager in an organization that lip service, I mean, I was good at it, giving my boss lip service, telling them what he or she wanted to hear, so they just go away, you know. But we want to give people the opportunity to say no. We want people to have choice. Choicefulness is important in a structure of belonging. And so that's the question. What is the yes you no longer mean? What is something that you've said yes to that you've changed your mind about? So that's the question. Again, the question is designed to be vague. It's designed to make you think, evoke a little anxiety. So in your new group of 3, same protocol, get interested in what the person's saying. Don't give them advice, even if they ask for it. Refuse, don't give it to them. Listen. Listening is the point in the whole exercise. If you have ask a question, ask questions for clarification, but also you can ask, tell me more, or why does that mean so much to you? Why does that matter to you? And the key is to listen after you ask those questions, and you'll be amazed. So Gail will break out for another 11 minutes and give people to have this dissent conversation. What is the yes that you no longer mean? Or what is a yes?
Hey. We'll open all the rooms. We'll see you back here in just a little bit. And I guess, Heather, you would need to go to room 1 if you're going to join a group.
I was one of the ones that was voting for a break, so I really need to go.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
And then I'll join room 1.
Come
Perfect.
back. Yeah. Go ahead, Heather.
Perfect. Yep.
You're wonderful, Heather. Yeah, Heather's making this work for us. She's wonderful. Appreciate that.
I didn't know if you wanted to join a group. We could have made them groups of 3, but I thought, yeah, maybe we needed to talk again.
Yeah, let's talk. I mean, we can do it. I enjoyed talking with Kate. I enjoyed that. Yeah. That was good. Good for her too to get it.
Yeah. It's so, this whole presentation makes me think that we could do this in higher ed. We could do this 2-hour presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And then if people want more, then we could have, this could be, a
introductory something or the other.
$100 introductory thing. And then if they wanted to do more,
yeah,
to do that.
You're recording.
I can't,
Make it 1,000. Oh, and Kate, yeah, she's got it.
I can't unrecord.
Maybe she can edit it out or something. This little part of it. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Okay, so welcome back, everybody. So now, same question following this dissent conversation. Rory, welcome. Saw your new face there. It's good to see you. So yeah, guys, what struck you about this dissent conversation that you just had? Want to share?
I'll go. I also, when I first saw this question, I went, oh God, another hard question. Can't think of anything. But now I love this question. My group completely turned it around for me. I found it extremely powerful. We had some great conversations. And it's quite hard to have it's kind of a safe way of dissenting, right? Because it's sort of, you're empowering the individual. It's them. They're not like dissenting about other people. They're kind of just changing their own acceptance of what's happening to them. But then it does get you to really question, like, because often you drift. We were talking at the end about you just drift into stuff. Maybe it's gradual, And it's just good to have that wake up call and say, hey, just think about this. Have you drifted to the right desert island? You know, or do you want to go to that one over there?
Right. Yeah, so it's the power is in the question. And there, like I said, there's a whole set of those in the materials we'll share with you of the sent questions.
I'll just, this is just a small joke. So in transactional analysis, we know the question, I'm okay, are you okay? I had a Scottish friend of mine say, but that's how you start a fight where I'm from. I'm all right, are you all right?
Yep.
Thank you.
So any other thoughts on the sense conversation?
Yeah, our group, a couple of us, we had to think about it a bit. And when one of us was brave enough and pushed out their conversation to us, then it resonated, and so lights went on in my space, but just sharing that, because you're talking about yourself, you know, and you're having a conversation about you, and it was really interesting that I never internalized stuff enough, probably, about why I say yes is no longer what that yes to me no longer means. I never really asked myself these types of questions before. So that was really a learning process just in that short time we were together in our group.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, the power is in the answering of the question. And sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes, you know, the question, your answer doesn't even have to be the truth. It's the act of thinking about it that works on you. So even if you don't get a chance to go, or you couldn't think of one, and you just kind of went down the checklist, it's already, you know, self-inflicted at that point. So it is powerful. It's all narrative. It's all a shift in narrative and how we think and speak. And that's all this work is about shifting the narrative.
I thought it was really interesting also, just as a bit of a test around belonging too, like what it means to go there is almost a litmus test of whether or not I am in a place that feels like I belong, and how I want to contribute to that. And I found it interesting from that perspective as well.
You know, it is about enabling people to be their authentic selves, you know, and so these conversations are, like you said, they're very personal. Yeah, so we want people to be themselves and to see themselves in these conversations. So let's, before we wrap up, so we'll just break you out and give you 7 minutes at the most to do a gifts conversation. Same thing, tell somebody about something they said that touched you, or a strength that you saw in them, or a gift that you got from them. Don't do your number on it. Say, thanks, I like hearing that. And if you get really brave, again, try it. Ask them to tell you more. And in an odd kind of way, that's a gift to them. Okay, so if you're brave, try that. All right, so 7 minutes.
Just say there. But go ahead and do the what struck you, Dan, sorry.
Yeah, so same deal on this round of gifts conversation. Anything strike anybody in particular? Who wants to share?
I'll acknowledge that the thing that struck me down was to hear from other people that they'd appreciated things that I've said, right? And I think that that's partly to do with the context and the sort of experts that we have, like that we have in this, but it's more that it's speaking to me, that it's an understanding that of how, when I interact with community members that I interact with, how that same process might be going on. That when, if you try to build with positivity rhetoric rather than strength-based thinking, assets-based thinking, you can perhaps make, and this isn't a criticism of what was said, it's but you can internalize those, perhaps internalized deficit perspectives in other people. And that's something that I will take away and remember in the rest of my work.
Good.
I'll share, Dan. I think we were just warming up. We started off really well. We did what we were asked to do in the group, and then we kind of overspoke each other, and then we were like, no, you are. Oh no, you are. And it was just fabulous. We were kind of in this gratitude shower, and then we all it was fabulous, and it was also, it was enlivening and it was strengthening, and it will carry me into the weekend. But I just have to let you all know that I'm hosting the closing plenary in 15 minutes, so I'm going to nick off. And if you can get over there, I will see you there. But thank you. This has been wonderful.
All right, so before you leave, so we'll do it on you, Dee, and we'll just take a minute. So anybody here, can anybody say or give Dee a gift or something that you got from her during this time that we've been together?
Had my gratitude shower, Dan.
Do your organizational skills showed at least a significant group of us here that have been here the past few days, how we might replicate this and bring this to the people we work with and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's really transformative and absolutely in awe. Thank you.
And I just wanted to say, in conversation with you, you really personalize and you really listen and hone in on the person that's speaking. I love the interaction between you and the last person who was sharing gifts. Sorry, I've missed your name because you've got meeting host on it, but that interaction.
Yeah.
So you're really present. Thank you.
Yeah, great. All right, Dee, thank you. Nice to meet you. Hope to see you soon.
Okay. Are you
Any
done
other
with that, Dan,
thoughts?
or?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Unless somebody's got another comment you want to make on your gifts experience.
I'd like to say thank you, Dan, at least.
Thank you, Roy. I like hearing that.
So Rory and Angie came in while we were working, and Angie, I don't think the whole group has heard your voice. Could you just say hello and where you're from?
Morning, my name's Angela Tuisamoa, or Ange. I grew up and was born in New Zealand, but I now live in Queensland in Australia.
We're so glad to have you with us.
Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry I mispronounced your name, Ange.
Ange.
Rory, do you want to say where you're from?
Scott.
No, I'm in Leeds, UK at the moment. Half my family are from Ireland. They live in also all over the place. And on the other side of the family, it sort of stops when my paternal grandfather was a foundling or a adopted person during the war. I don't know too much of the history on that side, and that's something that I always sort of wonder and try to actively quest around what sort of might be the stories there.
Thank you so much. Well, it's great to have you all with us. We're going to take, Dan and I are going to take just a couple minutes, and when we do these workshops, we often get questions from people about how to use this just in work and in life. And so we're just going to each give a little story, a couple minutes each, and then if you have any questions, and then we'll just do a quick checkout because we are running out of time. I have been working with these 6 conversations for about 15 years. And I would say that we used to have monthly meetings where we would go and practice this work. And it took me a couple years before I really figured out how to put them into practice. And suddenly, just after a couple years, it just hit me that I have an organization that I have goals that I have to meet, but how I meet those goals is up to me. So I started using, that whole idea that culture is built by the hundreds of little actions, words, thoughts that you have. That's how we build culture. And so I started using this. I have an advisory board. I start every advisory board meeting with a question. We break them into groups of 3, have a question, do a what struck you, and a gifts. So I don't teach them 6 conversations. I don't explain it all. We just go and do it. And the first time we did it, we had one advisory board member said, "Oh my gosh, I've been part of this group for 10 years. And this is the first time I really felt like I know somebody in the group." And so it just really shifts the spirit of the meeting. I also use it, I use connection before content for every staff meeting. Sometimes it's these questions. Sometimes it's a team building question that we get to know each other a little bit more, but always connection before content. And then sometimes I do use it in a training setting. We have AmeriCorps members, which are community service members. And so I do give them training so that they can then use this in community. For myself personally, this has really shifted how I listen. I really listen a lot better, and I don't try to respond to people as much. I ask questions, but I don't. I'll just let them do the talking. I also ask different kinds of questions. So if somebody's crying in my presence, I don't try to bring up an emotion. I will ask them, "What are those tears about? Can you tell me what the tears are about?" Rather than giving them an emotion to react to, like, "Why are you sad?" or something like that. And I also am much more likely to ask people, "What do you mean by that?" Because if I assume that I know what they mean, I could be really off track. So asking people, even about common language, I ask them, what meaning do you make of that statement? So these are just some of the ways that I use it at work and in my own personal life that has really shifted things for me a lot. Dan, I'll tap you and you can say a few words.
Yeah, so I'm a recovering bureaucrat. So I worked for local government and I was good at it, but I never understood why the outcomes that I got with my department and different people was incongruent with what was in my heart. I never understood that. But once I got into this work, I understood why that was happening to me, that it was my whole approach that was wrong. So what I've learned about this work is to apply your work, this work of Peter Block. I help people do it through how they run meetings. And that's it, so it's whatever their job is, it doesn't matter. It's how you run meetings. And like Gail said, it's just a little thought before every meeting, connection before content, and just keep that in mind. And there's all kinds of ways you can build connection. And the whole idea of connection is connecting strangers to strangers. And we just want to continually do that, connect strangers. That's why we say, get in groups of 3 people you know the least. Just do it. And then people will do that. And another part of the work that I learned from this is that my work as a convener, when I have a group of people in a room, it is to pull the people on the margin to the center, into the conversations. And that's our work constantly. Even the people that are outside of the room, the work is to gradually pull the next ring of people into the room, into the center. So that's constantly the work. And I understand that, I get it. This small group structure, this shift in what we talk about, it's perfect for that. I told you earlier, something that's very valuable is in the middle of a meeting, to do one of those dissent questions. You know, what doubts or reservations do you have about how this meeting is going, is what I'll ask them. That gives me a chance to adjust the meeting and what we're talking about. But that's one of Peter Block's questions. And I'll sometimes say, get into groups of 3, you know, what doubts or reservations do you have about how this meeting is going? Let them talk to each other. And with people you know the least, so that they don't get with their peers and kind of keep that same narrative going, you know. Yeah, so that's just a few examples. And then lastly, personally, this changed my life, my relationship with my youngest daughter. For me to learn as a father to not give her advice changed our relationship completely. And I've learned, like Gail said, I don't have to give her advice. When the conversation is over, and why is that so important to you? And if she asks me for advice, I said, no, I'm just listening to understand. And I don't say anything, and she's done. And you'll see that happens often. So those are just some examples of how it's personally in our lives.
Thanks, Dan. And I think maybe Roy, did you have a question or comment? I thought I saw your hand go up.
I did. And then I got sidetracked, so I was sending an email to Hardy. It was no, it's gone. It's gone. I apologize.
Okay. So just Ange, yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, I was in a meeting yesterday and I've been building up for it for days, and I was ready to go in to fight as a community member to have a voice in a project in my city that's happening. And I have been pushed out of different things, but culturally that relationship over content, or sorry, I've forgotten the terminology, but culturally that's really important to me and my culture. And it was just so much content, and it was, I wanted to fight against that. And what you just said, I was imagining it in these meetings that we have, and I want to be that brave person. I haven't read the book, so I probably need to do that first, and then do it, because so many people just sit in those meetings and go, and you know they're not happy, or you know they don't agree, but they don't say anything. They walk out back into the organizations that's supposed to help my community, and they don't do it because they know they can't do it. They don't have the power, but they don't say that in the meeting. So community thinks they're going to go off into the offices, do it, and nothing happens. And we're 5 years into the project, nothing really has made an impact on the ground. And so now more and more community are going, oh, what's happening? So I'm excited. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and it is slow work. It's very slow work. It can't happen fast, but I think, you know, once it starts, you know, it'll go for a while, and I think it'll just take off. But you got to stay with it, and it takes years. It takes years.
I think maybe Rory, did you figure it out? You raised your hand.
Figured it out. So, and you spoke to it perfectly, Ange. But so if you're in a meeting and everyone's thinking the same thing, then nobody's thinking, are they? Right? And the structure of the meeting has created the center of the thinking. And so, you know, Dan, you did an excellent job of it here, creating a meeting where thinking can go off in other directions. And that was a bad way of paraphrasing what I was thinking before.
Thank you. We probably have time for one more comment or thought. If anybody else wants to do a checkout or a
What are you
about
taking
this
away?
Experience.
Yeah, what nuggets are you taking away from this time together?
Ooh. Well, I'm definitely going to get Peter Block's books for a start, but because this is just a taste, you know, it's just, although there's a lot I got out of it and the depth of it, but I really want to get into, and it's very timely for where I'm at the moment in my workplace. So I started at the beginning of this conversation that I wanted to bring my kitty in and load it up. and definitely done that. I look like the shopping woman with all the toilet rolls at the top of it. So thank you so much. And both your words in that have really strengthened and empowered me to go forth.
Thank you. We appreciate hearing
We
that.
love hearing that. Yes.
I've put a couple links in the chat. One is for a civic engagement booklet that you can just download. It's free. It has a lot of the questions in it. It has a lot of the framework that we've talked about today. And then the other is a link to the Peter Block's website, and where you can buy his books, including The Community, the Structure of Belonging that we were referencing today. And then I've put Dan's email and my email in the chat. You know, we're happy to chat with you. We love this work. If you want some ideas and, you know, just brainstorm with somebody, we're happy to do that. And then in exchange, we'll brainstorm with you, because Dan and I are in the process of starting a company where we get to do this kind of work and help people. So we'll learn from you too, if you call us or email us. So please be in touch if you would like to. Heather, I don't know if Dan, do you want to say anything as a goodbye? I just want to say thank you guys. This was so wonderful to have you all.
Yeah, this has really been a gift to me. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Other than the closing ceremony starting, you all should have an email in your inbox with a link to help you to find it. And honestly, you know what? You're all amazing people doing amazing work. Share your stories, keep it up, and till next year, we'll see ya.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Gratitude,
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Really.
Thank you.